Hello everyone, so today we'll just be doing a quick Lake Joker V-BT08 deck profile. I basically just got this deck. I've been testing it a lot over the quarantine period as cards get revealed, and this is kind of basically the final culmination of all those months of testing. And yes, I do play Jep, and yes, I do have the deck in real life, and here I'm gonna show the deck list with this basically. So yeah, let's get started. So you have our starter, of course. You don't want to play crits or any other triggers as starters. Next, for Volko, very self-explanatory as to why you play 4 copies of him. He is your main pressure, your main engine, your main attacker. You may only need 2 maximum on your field, but you play 4 for the consistency of being able to draw into him. So yeah, he just very big base deck. Basically saved the deck. If Volko wasn't printed in this set, the deck is like quite a ways worse now. Quite a ways would be quite a bit worse if Volko wasn't printed, but thank God he was. And yeah, basically it. That's Volko for you. And next we have 4 of the VR Alter Ego Messiah. Again, very self-explanatory. You play Alter Ego Messiah because he's the turn 3 unlocker, and basically your only right target. We only play this guy, Alter Ego, and Grade 3 orders for the rest of our Grade 3s. You want to write into anything else, or you're basically gonna lose. Remember with your Vanguard's once per turn ability, the Soul Blast 1, you can call the card actually Soul Blast. So basically, to get the full value off of Alter Ego, you only really need to like guard with 1 card from hand in the earlier turns at most. But usually you'd be guarding more attacks, because at least my playstyle is very defensive early game, and then in the late game I just pray against some triggers. And yeah, this deck, the offense part is very simple. Like the attack patterns are just swing with Volko, swing with Volko. If you don't have another attack, another unlocker or something, if you don't have another Volko, let's say some other random card, you basically just attack with Bang next, blah blah. That's basically it. Very simple attack patterns. What's really needs the skill is the guarding, to say the least. Like, you need to be smart how you guard in the early game and late game. You need to know which attacks you're gonna take and which attacks you're gonna be able to guard, since you know this deck does not have the best of hands. So yeah, cool. I went on a bit of a tangent over there, but whatever. Let's keep going. For Alter Ego, next 3 mirror order. This dude, this Grade 3, not only is it a Grade 3 so a proc Burst Monk, which I play, but it also is just really good to get your Volko unlocked for an extra attack on turn 3, which is very important. And it's your only way of like, and then this card is a good backup against retired decks like Kagero right now, which is going to be pretty popular, though the more popular archetype, the X, isn't able to retire Volko God as easily as Blade Master. But this card is still very useful in those situations where you just need to, where you basically just keep one of these guys in hand just in case your Volko gets retired. Yeah, basically that's why you play this card. Yeah, you don't play any other Grade 3s because you don't want to ride into anything else other than Alter Ego Messiah. Though I do have a few extra options later on that I want to talk about. So yeah, let's keep going. For Lady Fencer, for our Grade 2s. Lady Fencer, I mean, she's basically just a weak mini Volko God, but she's still a mini Volko God is still good. It's a 15k attacker, and then after unlock you gets 10k, so it's a 25k attacker. Yeah. The one thing it has over Volko God is that once you draw it, is that on your turn, if you have her on hand, you can actually just call it down instead of Volko God, which requires setup in the previous turn of either setting up your drop zone or with cards like Gushtra and Manipulator to be able to call stuff down. Call Volko God from hand as locked in the early game. So yeah, this girl, if you just have her in hand, you can just swing. I don't know why she's a more expensive triple though, like $10. Also nice ass. Anyway, yeah, 4 copies of her because we don't have much. Actually, with my list, I do have like 1 flex spot. So what you can do what you can do with this list is oops, let me get that in camera. This is my one flag spot card, Jagger. I'll explain the skill later when the great ones come up. But basically, if you want to, I do play 2 Burst Monk, but you can basically replace these 2 for Blast Monk. Blast Monk is actually a really good card with targeted removal, especially in the mirror match, since basically your opponent, because of the threat of being able to so easily remove their vocal cords from field, they have to decide whether they want to, if they hit with their manipulator, or if they want to proc their Gushra's ability. You have to think, oh, do I want to call down something else, or do I want to call down the vocal cord and risk having it get sniped by your Blast Monk? So that's why you want to play. That's why you might want to do this instead. I'm actually thinking of doing it myself, since I personally think you don't need a Lady Fencer at 4. I just play her at 4 because 2 is enough for Burst Monk, and well, might as well fill up that last 10th grade 2 spot. So yeah, but that is an option to play Blast Monk in place of these 2 cards. Though your grade 1s will be a bit limited, but they're still doable. So yeah, for Lady Fencer, let's move on to the next card, the main MVP of the deck, I would say, Gushra. Gushra is just a really simple skill, Counter Blast 1, call a card from hand as locked. Ooh, very good. It's not only is it a +1, a solid +1 that does not need to hit. It also is able to call down your vocal cord early. As in have it call it, as in on turn 2 you call it down to the field. Then on turn 3, when you ride into your alter ego, this guy is unlocked and he can go ham with attacks. So that's why I want to play 4 of him. He technically can do multi-attack since his skill is an end of battle skill. But you really want to commit multi-attacks with Lady Fencer or Vocal Ward instead, because these 2 cards are just better as multi-attack engines in this deck. But in last resort situations, you can use Gushra as a multi-attack engine, though you are forced to waste a booster on this guy in the because he is only a 10k base, and unless you have like other power-up stuff. So yeah. Oops. Alright, let's go. That's for Gushra, that's why I play him. Next, to Burst Monk. Burst Monk is a pretty contentious card here. Some people play Blast Monk in that spot, but personally I just really like Burst Monk because first there's the plus. The plus is always good, and you don't use a lot of CB in the deck, so you might as well have this guy. Sure, you do lose a booster if you have like a full front row with multi-attack engines, but it's still valuable, especially since you usually want to put your back row, your Vanguard Circle back row, at least from what I find from my playstyle, your Vanguard Circle back row is empty, because I don't really like calling, like, some people do advocate for calling your Bellerother behind Vanguard. Personally, I don't like doing that, because it's just like, okay, my Vanguard's bigger, but then 9 times out of 10 your opponent's gonna no-guard your Vanguard anyway, since it has the drives already to be able to threaten, check-in crits and stuff. And you can power it up slightly with Vocal Ward already, so I don't think so. Usually that spot will be left empty, so you can just call this guy to that spot, check the top card, and the chances of actually getting a grade 3, even though you only play 7 grade 3s, is actually decently high with how much you draw. Of course depending on what you draw, but it's actually decently high. So yeah, that's why I play him. And then you can also use this guy as just a 10k attacker, 5k interceptor on turn 2, since he can be recycled with alter ego skill. That's really what I like to do. Like if I have extra cards in hand, let's say like this, I have this, I ride, call, that's about it. Because Link Joker does not have a very good early game, like at all. So those 5k pokes do push out cards from your opponent's hands, or it just gives you free damage result. Both scenarios are very useful. Yeah, that's our grade 2s. We play 10 grade 2s. You don't really need to play more or less, but whatever. Your choice. Next, a card that most people love, but some people do hate, and I'm part of the I'm part of the majority. Let's say Manipulator of Emptiness. Now, why play Manipulator of Emptiness over Destiny Dealer? Very simple. Manipulator makes your opponent think. Like, sure. I didn't watch Yellow Card's video. It's okay, nothing terrible, but he did do Manipulator dirty. That's what I'll say. So, Manipulator. Manipulator's function in the deck is not to basically go for the high roll of getting your Volco down on turn 1 and therefore having your Volco down on turn 2. That is not the function of Manipulator in this deck. The function of Manipulator in this deck is as a second Ghoshra or second Ghoshra, as well as just being a good on-hit pressure in the on-hit pressure. As well as just a solid plus if you do hit with her. So yeah. The reason, so firstly, she's not useless on turn 2 onwards, and she's not useless going first. All right, you can call her down on turn. You can call her down on turn 2 as a booster, and your opponent will be basically thinking, do I really want to give this guy the plus? Do I really want to give this guy a plus? And since your Vanguard is 10k, you will call it behind your Vanguard. That'll be 18k, and your opponent will be on an 8k base. So they'll have to basically drop 25k shield to no pass that attack, or risk a 15k one to pass to be able to 15k one to pass. So that's very strong already. Of course, the high roll of getting the grade 4 down is important, but the reason, of course, the high roll of getting the grade 4 down is very good, but honestly, the plus is already pretty decent in a deck that doesn't plus a lot. So yeah. That's Manipulator, and it also makes your opponent think, because this card is win-win. It doesn't matter what your opponent does. If your opponent lets you hit, you get a Volca God or whatever, or a +1 at least, a +1 to field, and basically a cycle from hand. And if your opponent doesn't hit, there's one card. If the attack doesn't hit, that means your opponent guarded the attack. Your opponent loses one card from hand, which is actually pretty big. In the grand scheme of things, unlike what the other card says, and it designs your opponent resources which is relevant for certain decks that require a turn 2 counter blast if they want to guard the attack. But those decks right now aren't very relevant. But there are still quite a few tier 2 decks that do require the counter blast for turn 2. So yeah, then Manipulator, just getting down your grade 4 unlocked by turn 3, that's basically why you play her. Later on, she's very vanilla later on, but I think the pressure she gives in the early game is worth the fact that she's vanilla in later game. Because to be honest, most of your grade 1s are vanilla in the later stages of the game. So yeah, play 4 of her. You don't play Destiny Dealer because no, Destiny Dealer is only free when you're on ride. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna top deck a trigger. So like, okay, 5k booster, but like, 5k booster. Basically, your opponent just has to drop a 20k shield to no pass your Vanguard attack on the next turn, or your opponent has to guard like 10k shield instead of 5k for pokes. And then the chances of high rolling into Volca God is actually lower than burst monkeying into a grade 3. So you might as well just not play him. And then his rearguard skill, no go at all. If your opponent is smart, if both players are smart, they will learn how to guard early. They will learn to guard the earlier attacks because they are the smallest, and therefore they are the smallest and have the least pressure in the grand scheme of things. In the whole game, at least. So they will guard early. They'll take some damage, maybe they check a few draws here and there, but they'll be able to bounce back on turn 3 either with plussing or with rushing. So your opponent, so basically games do last, well, you do cheese some turn 3 games, but usually games last until your opponent's turn 4 actually, your turn 4, and sometimes even turn 5. Depends on the matchup, of course. If you're playing against Susano, you don't want to waste the extra Soul Blast. So that's why I don't really like Destiny Dealer. And again, Destiny Dealer is a top call on Rearguard Circle, which I really don't like. I would rather be able to, like, get a trigger, sure, you get like 15k on the next. If you call it during an alter ego turn, sure, it's like a 15k, but then it limits, it changes what you call, but it also limits the options of what you can call. Since you're thinking, oh, I already have a booster here, so what should I call it? Or like, oh, I already have an attacker, but then I still want to get 2 attacks off, stuff like that. So yeah, that's why I don't really like playing this. That's why I personally don't think you should play Destiny Dealer at all, and that's why I think yellow card is wrong, basically, if you don't know. Yeah. So that's why we play for Manipulator. one of the best cards in the deck. Next, Tree, Great Tree Searcher. That's right, Tree. I personally don't think she is needed at 4, but 3 is a good number, to be honest. I was playing 2 because I did play 2 copies of my Spicy Tech, but after a bit of playtesting, especially against the current meta decks, Jaiga isn't as useful against the current meta decks. But he's still useful enough to be as a 1-off, but not as a 2-off. And I definitely do want to see my Great Tree Searchers a bit more often than playing at 2 copies, so that's why I want to play Great Tree Searchers. Of course, while you play Great Tree Searchers, you only have 4 rideable Great Trees in deck, so unless you are willing to G-assist, which honestly you are willing to, but it definitely does help to be able to keep some hand cards, to be able to like either more important pieces or just more shield, which is very important as well for this deck. So yeah, the 5k skill, honestly, it's not that, like, it would have been better if it were like, if you caught a card as locked during this turn, like if it were Mighty Bolt, he gets 5k, sure, but like, it's just not really very good. It's not very good, it's just, I personally don't value the 5k so much that, like, I compromise my deck to be able to get that 5k boost on White Dwarf, or whatever it's called. Yeah, so we play 3 copies of her. Good for you budget players, since this card is $30 or 3,000 yen. Next we have 2 Van Manen. You can play 3, but you definitely don't want to play 4. I personally like playing 2. 1 on the field, 1 in the drop zone is perfect. Yeah, very simple skill. On unlock, draw 1. This is limited to once per turn. So yeah, it's your only other form of plussing to hand, at least other than Burst Monk, since you do plus the field quite a bit, but you don't plus the hand a lot. You only have cards like this and Burst Monk to be able to plus the hand. So I do play Burst Monk basically as another 2 extra copies of this guy, as well as the potential of getting an extra restench which from my testing at least, it either gives you a very safe win, where like you don't feel, where like if in games where I felt, oh, this is gonna be a tough game, maybe I'll win, maybe I'll not. When I burst one, I say, oh, I definitely win this, and then it does steal games sometimes that you shouldn't deserve, because it's not only burst one is not only gives you an extra Vanguard attack, even if it doesn't give you an extra Vanguard attack, it helps you cycle through 2 cards in your deck, 3 cards in your deck. Draw 1 from your burst mark, and then your drop 2, and then your drive again. It helps you cycle to get into more of your pieces, which is very crucial in this deck. So yeah, that's why I play burst mark again. Why am I talking about burst mark when I'm supposed to talk about Van Madam? I don't know. But yeah, very good card. You play at 2 copies at least. You can up it to 3, but I personally am comfortable with running 2 since I want to run more other cards. And we are moving on to our last 3 card slots. 2 Bellerother. Bellerother, such an amazing card. Bellerother, it just gets very beefy and basically ensures your columns don't die to double defensive, because double defensive actually hurts this deck quite a bit. Your Vocal Guard columns are just 10k guards even after the unlock. So, but with this guy, your Vocal Guard columns will be still 30k guard even if your opponent checks double defensive. Yeah, and I do like to boost Lady Fencer with a powered up Bellerother, because it makes the first attack at least respectable. Sure, I don't get as much power in the later game, but my opponent 9 times out. Well, okay, wait. Let me rephrase that. I don't get as much power as I would if I were to like just swing with Lady Fencer first, and then on the second wave of attacks from Lady Fencer then boost with this guy. The reason I prefer to just boost with this guy first in the first wave of attacks is because I want my first attack to be at least reasonably powerful. Cause your first Lady Fencer attack unboosted is just 15k, so it's just a 5k guard. And then once they see you have a Bellerother in the back row, 9 times out of 10 on the second wave of attacks, they're just gonna take the attack, no matter how big your Bellerother got. So basically, your opponent is forced to think, so basically your opponent just has to guard, like, if they guard both attacks, they put less shield on the field, but it definitely makes the decision a bit harder for them. So yeah, that's why I play Bellerother, and it's just very big. It makes your Vanguard columns turn from 40k to 60k, which is amazing. So yeah, basically it forces a PG out of your opponent's hand. And lastly, Spicy Tech Jaiga. Jaiga is a counterblast 1, retire one of your other rear guards and bind an entire column. Bind all the units in the same column as this guy. Very strong. It doesn't give you games, but it generates a lot of advantage. But not really advantage, but it definitely does hurt your opponent quite a bit, especially though not right now, at least for meta decks. But it does hurt your opponent quite a bit, depending on some of the decks. Like if some decks they have resist, but they can't be chosen. This guy just basically says, screw that. I just bind your column. It's basically just Cho, but a bit better. Yeah. The only problem with this guy is he is a on place, so you want to save him in hand and don't willy-nilly do that. But I feel one copy is enough to be impactful over like a few hundred games. Impactful in a few games, in a certain number of games, and then not be completely useless. Not be completely useless in like other games. Yeah, I just really like the card, but definitely is a one-off card. I played 2, but in the meta right now you have the X and Messiahs. They don't care too much. Okay, Messiahs does care, but if you only run 2 copies, you're basically just only run 2 copies just to see one of those copies more often, because it's very unlikely to be able to proc 2 of these guys at once. So yeah, just 1 copy is enough, I feel. And if your opponent doesn't expect it and leave like a better author vocal ward column on the field, you can just bind the entire column, and your opponent has lost quite a good amount of pressure. Yeah. Same thing for like a Doha Garan column. You can just make that disappear with this guy. You can screw with blasters. They are a decent rogue deck. They're decent rogue decks. So you can just screw with it by just binding the entire column, bypassing blaster arrows resist. So yeah, that's fun. You also got Afterglow. Afterglow does have the resist card, and they do need their pieces, so this card is very, very important in that matchup. What else? Yeah, it works against Late Master. It gives you quite a bit of value against other decks. It's just a very good card. You don't really care about the -1 from field, since you're most likely gonna call over the card you retire anyway. So yeah, very good card, but only as a one-off. Oh yeah, he's also a 7k base, so in certain matchups you can damage deny your opponent. Let's just finally move on to our trigger lineups. 6 crit, 6 draw with 4 draw PGs, and 4 heals. You need the draws to see your pieces. You need the PGs because of the force heavy meta right now, and the fact that you might as well just play the draw PGs. If you play like 5k shields and then play your 30k crits instead, it's not really that good, to be honest. You don't play 12 crits, this is a no-go. You can play 8 crits and 4 draws, but I personally think 6 draw 6 crit is a good ratio. So yeah, now let's talk about a few options here. So I did mention Blast Monk just now. Let me see whether I can find the cards. Anyway, as I was saying, I did mention Blast Monk as a good card to think about. Let me try and find it. But Blast Monk is very good, especially in the mirror match, since removal is pretty. Most decks don't actually expect removal, or like if they get removal, their plans are kind of are in peril, to say the least, basically. Oh yeah, that's it, back in my room, but I'm not really searching. Anyway, Blast Monk's a really nice card. If I were to play Blast Monk, I would drop 1 Lady Fencer and 1 Jaiga. So these guys will basically be Blast Monk. And yeah, and Blast Monk is definitely a bit more impact. And you can replace Burst Monk instead for Blast Monk, but then you might as well just replace this guy for something. But you can replace Burst Monk for Blast Monk, since yes, Blast Monk is more consistent than Burst Monk. But I like to play the casino. I like to go to the casino. to get a jackpot grade 3. So that's why I play this guy. It actually happens more often than not. Actually happens more often than you think, rather, the restand. So yeah, you can play Blast Monk. You can basically just place two copies of Blast Monk here, and then keep your Burst Monks, or you keep these guys and then play 2 copies of Blast Monk in place of Burst Monk. So yeah, that's Blast Monk. Then another interesting card that one of my friends talked to me. I don't know, I haven't tested it as much, but it's definitely interesting. It is playing Greyon, or one of the deleters, to be more accurate. Instead, basically, like, this is your grade 3 lineup, 7 grade 3s right now. We do have one very cool tech spot. So basically what you do is, you drop one of these and drop your Jaiga for like a Greyon instead. The reason you might want to play Greyon is, sometimes your opponent has like 20k shields, or they don't really care about your Vanguard circle because it doesn't really, because like it's probably your least powerful attack. So they won't be that concerned with your Vanguard circle. So what you can do is you ride into Greyon, delete your opponent's Vanguard, and then this guy will be hitting magic numbers on his own because it's 30k, which is still quite a lot from your opponent's hand, to say the least. So what else? Also, playing Greyon right now is a decent counter meta pick, because most decks will be playing 4 grade 3s, or at least 4 rideable grade 3s, and because no one really expects delete, no one really expects like ride lock and stuff in the current meta, they will just, with their grade 3 searchers, with any extra copies of their cards, they'll just throw or if they get any extra copies of like their main ride target, they'll just throw it, like Blade Master, they'll throw any extra Blade Masters, DX, they'll throw any extra pieces of DX, maybe even Dragonic Overlord at the end, since it's better in drop zone actually, since you can return it back later and plus off the return. So yeah. So suddenly going into Greyon and deleting your opponent's Vanguard when they least expected it is a decent counter meta option right now. Though of course the big drawback is potentially misriding into Greyon on turn 3, in which case you're probably dead already. But I think it is a option to be aware of, to say the least. Yeah. And then this does not only works in the like a best of 1 format where your opponent doesn't know you play Greyon. It also works in the best of 3 format, because it makes your opponent think, do I want to drop my grade? I'm walking over my words. Anyway, as I was saying, it's basically making your opponent think, do I want to drop my extra grade 3? Because I mean, I might as well filter one and keep some like extra pieces, extra shield in hand, or do I want to keep that grade 3 in hand just in case I get deleted, so on the next turn I still get to do things, but I do drop shield. So yeah, it's also decent in the best of 3 format. So yeah, that is one option to consider. Well, I won't say this is an option to consider right now, at least. It's an option to consider in the future. Harmonix Messiah right now, no go. The chances of first riding into him is crap, and the chances of first riding into him does not make up for the fact that he doesn't really do much that Alter Ego doesn't do right now. But in the future, he might be able to do that. Depends on the meta, of course. But Harmonix is actually a fine choice. Basically, just remove the order card. But Harmonix can be a decent pick depending on the meta. If the meta is much slower than the current one, like it's a it's like a very basic turn 4, turn 5 kill. Though that is unlikely since we are getting quite a number of Excel clans in the future. So have fun with that. But anyway, as I was saying, Harmonix is actually an option, to say the least. It's an option for the future. So I won't be selling my Harmonix Messiahs anytime soon, since he does plus you quite a bit to hand, and getting cards locked onto field is actually decently easy. Yeah. So you do want to consider Harmonix. What else? Is there anything else I want to talk about? Not really. Those are all your main cards. You don't want to play anything else. Ghastly Nail is trash, to be honest, in the current deck, since he's an on attack and not end of battle. If he were end of battle, then he would be better, since he can call over himself, but sadly he isn't. Gushra does Ghastly Nails, basically he does Ghastly Nail better. And you don't really care about him being a beat stick because you already have Vocal God, which is the only beat stick you need in the deck. Yeah, that's Ghastly, that's about it. Yeah, that's basically it. You definitely don't want to run Grey Dog for like what I mentioned before with the deleted stuff. Grey Dawn. You want to run either Greyon or the new deleter, the new double red deleter. Though that does cost a discard, but it is one combat less, so it's basically your option. You do Messiah surprisingly has a bit of flexibility in its text at least, but for the most part, it is pretty sealed in stone to play 4 Vocal, 4 Alter Ego, at least a few of your order cards. Manipulator, Gushra is definitely a 4 of. Lady Fencer, you want to play a few copies of her at least, and then for the rest of your card, you definitely want to play a few Van Manum, and then for the rest of your cards, they're more tech spots or tech friendly to be more specific. So yeah. So anyway, that is the entire deck profile. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, do hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and watch more of my stuff. Just saying, I did talk a bit of shit about the yellow card, but his video wasn't terrible. But yeah, it did do Manipulator dirty. That's what I will say. But yeah, that's basically my deck profile. It's been working really well for me, and yeah, if you want to see some gameplay, I actually did a fight with my friend Josh, whose channel is freaking cringe right now. Vanguard King, yeah, no. Anyway, yeah, I do have a game of Messiahs versus Turbo NLK. Turbo NLK is very fun, and it can cheese wins on turn 3, but even after the Harley ban. But I'm going off on a tangent right now. So if you do want to just see like a basic gameplay of how Messiahs works, you can go into my friend's video, which I will leave in the description. And yeah, am I missing anything? No, I'm not. So hey, thanks everyone for watching. See you next time. I'm tired. Alright.